All right, everybody. Welcome back to Rivers and Recurves. Today, I would like to start an introductory series. So we're going to be talking about being recurve ready in 2 months or less. Let's get into it. All right, guys, recurve ready in 2 months or less. The whole point of this series is a lot of people think you need to spend years practicing with these to harvest a deer, and that's just not the case. Last year, I picked mine up early July, and on August 2nd is when I harvested my first deer with this exact bow. So let's get into it. I'm just going to give you guys some tips and stuff I wish I would have known going into this. All right, so tip number one, you do not have to spend a lot of money on a bow, and I encourage you to not spend a lot of money on the bow. Both these bows are $80 bows. I got them both from Amazon. They're nothing special. We got the Sanlita Royal X8 longbow, and we've got a Sam Sage knockoff. That was about $80. Okay. I took 4 deer with this bow last year and 1 deer with this bow last year. They both shoot great. There are 0 issues with either one of them. Spend a lot less money on a bow. Spend $80 because they shoot fantastic. You know, they're not going to have the same craftsmanship as a $1,200 or $2,000 bow, but they're going to get you where you need to be. I would encourage you to not spend a lot of money. Use the money you save on quality arrows, which takes us into the next point. All right, so my next tip is to buy quality arrows. So when I first got into this, I bought the cheap Amazon arrows. They did not fly very well, and there's some exceptions to that rule, but they're just, the quality control isn't there. I really love these Easton Legacy arrows. I think they are fantastic quality for the price. It's gonna run you about $10 an arrow, which is not that bad. So save your money on the bow and then buy a number of different spine arrows, okay? So whatever spine, you can look up charts, find whatever spine you think you're gonna need, and then buy one spine stiffer and one spine that's more flexible. So bare shaft tuning is what's going to give you that near perfect arrow flight, just like we saw. So that brings us right into the next step. Don't skip that. A lot of people don't understand it, so they skip that portion of it. You know, they play around with arrows until they fly okay, but they never really get a really good arrow flight. And what you're doing is you're killing your penetration. You're not getting the full velocity arrow. You're not getting a stable arrow. It's just not great. So tip number 3 is don't skip tuning your arrows. If you don't know how, that's the next video in the series because I think it's that important. So, all right, and my final piece of advice is this sport is not for everybody. I would highly encourage anybody who's into archery to go in and pick up a bow and practice with it and use it. However, as far as hunting goes, I really think you got to be as ethical as possible because the animal deserves that, right? So if you're not a compound shooter who's out there shooting 4+ deer a year, somewhere in there, you know, and having a ton of shot opportunities that are 20 yards or less, I don't think this is the sport for you. At least not right off the start. You know, you can always better your hunting skills, but I think if you're not having multiple shot opportunities on deer within 20 yards every year and you don't have the experience necessary, it's gonna wind up being really bad for you and leaving a sour taste in your mouth. So number one, the blood trails with these are not as great. You know, I'm used to using a 2-inch expandable broadhead with my compound and having significantly more penetration, right? And that's not gonna happen with this. So if you're not good at tracking deer, there's a good chance you don't find deer, even if it's a kill shot. And I'll show you the video from last year when we were tracking one of the bucks I shot, and it was a perfect double lung shot, but it was on a big 209-pound mature Pennsylvania buck, and there was very, very little blood. We were following pin drops up until about the last 100 yards of that track. And even with a double lung shot, that track, he went over 400 yards. The other reason is that you need to be able to read deer. These bows shoot extremely slow. Longbows are a little quieter, but they're a little slower as well. But even still, you know, you're getting 160 feet per second, maybe 180. It depends on your arrow setups a lot and the bow. But you're shooting half of what you'd be shooting with a compound. So if you don't know how to read deer and you have deer that are coming in on edge, they're going to jump your shot. They're going to turn. You're just going to make bad shots in general. The third reason I don't think you should do this unless you're killing a lot of deer already with a compound is that you're gonna get antsy and you're gonna start making bad judgment calls and you're gonna start making bad shots. You know, you'll see a deer at 30 yards and you're like, oh, I can shoot that far. I've done it in practice 1 out of 5 times. And then you're gonna end up either missing or making a bad shot on an animal. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. like I said, we're going to go right into the next episode of the series, which is how to bare shaft tune, because I think that is super important. And I don't think you can really start to practice effectively until you have an arrow that's flying consistently. So stay tuned. I'll put that video up here in the corner.